In a city where everyone fends for himself, there was an old crow who every day visited the same park bench hoping to find a crumb of food that some careless picnicker had left behind. He would come every day at precisely the same time, hop onto the bench and wait. Sometimes his wait would be rewarded, sometimes it wasn't. But the crow never gave up hope because in this city, hope is all you have when you're a bird of prey looking for a handout. One day as the crow perched on the bench, he saw a tiny white mouse struggling to drag a piece of cheese twice the size of its head. The mouse dropped the cheese when it saw the crow and started squeaking frantically. "Don't eat my dinner," it screamed. The crow just stared at the mouse. He hadn't seen such a tiny creature in all his years of scavenging. "What did you say?" he asked incredulously. "I said don't eat my dinner," squeaked the mouse. "It's the only thing I have to keep me alive." The crow looked at the mouse and then at the piece of cheese. Truth be told, he wasn't hungry. He just liked coming to the park bench because it was a ritual that gave some structure to his meaningless life. But seeing a creature so small and helpless, the crow felt a twinge of sympathy. So instead of snatching the cheese, he simply asked, "Why don't you share it with me? We can eat it together." The mouse shook its head vehemently. "No way, you dirty bird. You wouldn't even share it with me if I were dying, would you?" The crow ruffled his feathers. "Listen here, you ungrateful pipsqueak. I could eat you for breakfast, but I'm not going to because I'm a gentleman. Now that we've established I'm not going to eat you, why don't you share that cheese with me?" The mouse thought about it for a moment, looking from the crow to the cheese and back to the crow again. Finally, it said, "All right, you can have the last crumb." And so it was that the old crow and the tiny white mouse became friends. They met every day at the park bench and shared whatever scraps the mouse could find with each other. Sometimes the mouse would bring half a sandwich, and sometimes it would just be a crust. But no matter how little it was, they shared it with each other. Now, the crow wasn't really good at making friends. He was gruff and grumpy, and most of the other crows avoided him, which was fine by him. But this little mouse, well, it was different. It reminded him of a younger, more hopeful version of himself. And somehow the mouse didn't seem to mind the crow's gruff exterior. It would just chatter merrily while the crow listened patiently. They were an odd pair, a grumpy old crow and a cheerful little mouse, but they were friends. Then one day a group of boys came to the park, and the little mouse ran away in terror. Because the boys were playing with a cat, and it knew the cat would love nothing more than to catch a white mouse for a midnight snack. The crow watched the mouse scurry away, and then it struck him like lightning. Maybe he could protect the mouse. Maybe he could teach the mouse to fly so it wouldn't have to hide from the cat anymore. And so the crow did something he had never done before. He used his beak to gently nudge the mouse towards the edge of the bench. "Come on, little one," he said softly. "I want to show you something." The mouse looked at the crow with gratitude in its eyes. "Thank you, kind sir," it squeaked. "But what are we going to do?" "You'll see," said the crow. And with that, he spread his wings and launched himself into the air. The moral of this story is that friendship can blossom in the most unexpected places.